This is Green Revolution. My name is Zeta Seti. We're here at the Cannabis Conference here in Las Vegas, and I'm here with Jaime Shau from Brightfield. How are you doing, Jamie? Pleasure to meet you. So tell me a little bit about Brightfield and what you guys do.
Yeah, we are a cannabis and CBD market research firm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
great.
and I'm a senior insights manager there, so I really cover the whole spectrum of what we're looking at in terms of consumer, brand health, and market data.
Wow, so you are providing a lot of this very important data analytics for companies that are out there doing a bunch of this market research and putting it into their, like, let's just say financial projections or understanding consumer behaviors and habits. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes, and often looking at trying to get investment to and develop products, whether it be at the cultivation stage or in marketing, branding, positioning, or even retail.
Right. So, so data analytics on products and then customer behavior. I mean, are we talking about like just all products across the board that are sold at a retail dispensary? And then, do you guys, work with other, POS service providers and try to match those analytics up, or how does that work exactly?
Yeah, that's a good question. So our methodology is multi-source, so it's a little bit atypical. We've seen that traditional market research methods don't really work as effectively for cannabis and CBD because they're siloed.
Yeah.
Point of sale data is a good example of that. So we really compile as much as we can put together. So survey data, for example, menu audit data. Market data from data share partnerships with clients, for example. And then we use subject matter experts and big machine learning to create a holistic view of the market.
Wow, that's a lot of pieces there.
It's a lot.
So how does that, so you also use AI, you said, in terms of, really?
Yeah. So we're doing natural language processing to do social listening and really understand how people are speaking about different brands or products. There's a lot to learn about this market, and it's okay, right? So we've absolutely seen that the more angles we can look at the market from, the better picture we can give to clients and prospects.
Right. And so, how long has Brightfield been around?
We've been around since 2015.
Wow, that's a good long time.
Yeah, and I've been there since the beginning, so we're encroaching on 7 years now.
7 years. And did you guys work with a lot of multi-state operators, or do you work with, tell me a little bit about your customer base.
Yeah, sure. So we work with clients from A to Z. We've got we've actually had clients that are so small that they're working from their basements to create products, right? And just make it happen, sort of just work the daily grind type clients. And then we've got CPG clients, MSOs are our clients as well. And then that also extends to big CBD clients too.
So what about investor groups? Because investors are always looking for this kind of data. Are you working with a lot of investor groups that are like doing a lot of acquisitions, or what does that look like in terms of some of your client base?
And there's definitely been increased interest in that type of information because it's such a hot space for acquisitions right now.
Right, I know.
Both in cannabis and CBD, and we've got a whole lot of material we publish about that. But investor groups, I'd say, are generally less interested. It's more possible acquisition targets that are looking at data to pitch it to investors.
Okay, so it's the opposite then. So people that are already have a brand per se, they utilize your services to be able to quantify that data and pitch to another brand and increase their valuation, or like.
Yeah, well, exactly, and really validate their case for, this is what's out there, and here's my place in the market and my market share, or whatever it is.
Oh, that's fabulous.
We do have investors interested. I would say the bulk is probably from acquisition targets.
And how big is your team over there at Brightfield? I mean, is it a pretty big group, or is it?
It's increasing. I was actually our first full-time employee, so we've definitely grown in the last few years. We're about 30 deep now.
30 deep of all analysts just researching the market and.
Analysts, I mean, we've got client relationship managers, we've got a sales team, a marketing team, all kinds of.
Yeah. So, but do you guys also do release publications, on some of this data, like similar to ArcView's publications or any of these other institutionals? Tell me a little bit about that. Do you guys do that at all? Or?
Yes, we do quite a bit in the marketing realm. We do quick snapshots of our data, and we'll also do a little bit more in-depth of highlights from each publication. We're constantly churning new material, so we've got data on CBD in the U.S., cannabis in the U.S. We've got global data.
I want this.
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a wealth of stuff, and actually, you could check it out on our website. We've got a bevy of free downloads for that basically pull out highlights of that data and give you a little sneak peek into what's going on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Because I know a lot of our audience, right? A lot of them are new entrepreneurs, right? Looking to get into this space. But then we have access to a lot of just product manufacturers. Lots of people, right? And it's all over the board in terms of who could utilize this data and why it would be important to have some of that data. So I'd love to connect our audience with you guys to search that out. But if you have publications coming out or even free publications or some way to get people to understand just a little bit more about the industry, because when they come in, they're clueless, right? I mean, most of the time.
It's hard. It's hard to get a really good view of the market, especially because it changes constantly. I mean, the path has never been straight.
Oh, I know.
And we've evolved with it, right? So our publications reflect that. And I think a really good place to start is those free downloads, because they are pretty in-depth, and they do give you a broader view. And we can always entertain any kind of questions that people have with regard to kind of point them in the right direction.
Right.
I think that's part of the battle too.
So what about internationally? Do you guys focus it all internationally, or is it,
We have a pretty broad, I was actually our international research manager prior to this.
Oh, wow.
So we focus primarily it's on Canada, because they've got a pretty important cannabis market. But we also focus heavily on European CBD and cannabis.
I was going to say, like Germany maybe, or some of these other ones?
Germany, UK, they've got pretty active markets. And then we also are focused on several countries in Latin America and Asia Pacific.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, because that's obviously, we're heading towards federal legalization, it's inevitable, obviously. But I think that, we're going to see the borders open up, right? And we have all these different imports and exports, commodities happening around or outside the United States that the United States is not a part of, but eventually it's going to be a part of it. So it'd be interesting to see that key insight on the future of what that looks like, based on that data.
Yeah, there's been interest in this for a really long time, and a lot of people out there exploring it. There are barriers, though, internationally in general, because the global community looks at it largely the same way the U.S. does. So shipping product abroad really anywhere is still enormously laden with challenges.
Right.
It's getting easier. It is starting to happen. Some momentum is building, but for example, to ship stuff to Europe, you've got to have EU GMP certification. You've got to have auditors come out to where you're cultivating and check out your plants.
I know.
It's not as simple.
I know.
Process.
I know. And that's, for our audience, I mean, there's nothing simple about this. But, like I said, if there's other ways to bridge yourself into the industry and try to understand where your place is first, you can kind of migrate to these, and maybe if if that's good for you, right? And that's a lot of times where we see folks, and I'm sure your data is very helpful in understanding that.
That's the idea of it. So generally with international markets, our aim is to give a pretty, pardon the pun, global view of what's going on in each country, and give people generally view as to the regulatory landscape primarily, because that's usually the biggest hurdle to get past.
Yes.
But I would say, just as a general rule, it's good to know what your value offering is, what your unique place in the market is, and build from there rather than looking necessarily at what's open first and working backwards.
And does Brightfield Group do a lot of consulting around that? So let's just say there's a new entrepreneur that comes to you and they're like, I want to do this. I mean, do you guys do consulting around that at all, or?
We do custom projects with many clients. That's a large part of our portfolio. So there we'll scope what it is they're looking for and needing to understand. So we have done that, deep dives into specific countries, regions, product types, concepts, positioning, all that in quite a bit of depth depending on what they're looking for.
That is fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jaime, for attending. This is really awesome. Brightfield Group, Green Rush Revolution, signing off. Thank you.